Let's take a step back all the way to episode 1. Do you recall when we talked about the main enemies of astrophotography? We said that we could escape light pollution, but that we could not control the clouds. With monsoon season arriving and the recent California wildfires, the skies have become difficult for us to photograph anything in Las Vegas. This episode was supposed to be all about the beautiful row of Fuji, which won the most votes on both our American and French YouTube channels. Sadly, for the reasons we just mentioned, we weren't able to capture it, and so we turned to the second most voted target.
One thing is certain. We will capture Row of Fuji as soon as it shows up next summer. We will get you, Row.
We will.
Hi, and welcome again to a new episode.
Right now we're getting prepared to go film this episode of Galactic Hunter.
So, we really wanted to get Row of Fuji, which was such a beautiful target. We missed it because of the clouds, but let's make a deal. We're gonna go this time, the next time it pops out, which is around May, June, we'll get it again, for sure. But since we missed it this time, we're gonna make it even better, and we'll try to get it from a portal 1 zone. So it's gonna be very amazing. So around May and June 2018, hopefully. And okay, so let's go. Of course, everyone knows that the moon is easily visible from anywhere. Whether you are photographing it from the desert or the middle of a city, you will get the exact same results, as long as the skies are good. So for once, we will not travel an hour away. We will just travel 2 blocks away, under heavy light pollution. But it's okay. The moon doesn't care. Alright, so since this episode will be about the moon, we don't want to bore you to death with stuff you already saw 1,000 times on TV. So what we're gonna do is do some visual and compare our different eyepieces. We have 2 eyepieces and a ×2 Barlow. So we'll do some visual and then some camera live view.
And then at the end of the video, we're going to show you our sad encounter with the solar eclipse that happened a while ago.
Tonight we'll be using the Plasol 25mm eyepiece, which is a very basic eyepiece which came with a telescope, as well as a Barlow ×2, which we will only use with the camera, so we can magnify the live view twice. And then we will be using the planetary eyepiece 5mm, which is a very good one for the planets.
When it comes to the moon, we need all of our usual deep sky object equipment, except for one piece, the guiding camera. We will not need accurate guiding like we need for galaxies and nebulae, because we will be taking very short exposures of our bright satellite. However, finding Polaris in the city is somewhat difficult, but it is bright enough to be visible from anywhere. The best way to spot it is to quickly locate the Big Dipper. Then it's a piece of cake, as you just have to follow the line from Iraq through Dubai until landing on the North Star.
Now we're going to point our telescope to the moon. Go ahead. Press enter. So it's going. And we're going to see visually what it looks like, the different eyepieces, and then we will take a picture of it. So we forgot a very important piece of equipment, our sunglasses, because we don't have any moon filter. So this is very bright for us, and I cannot look through it with my bare eyes. What I'm doing right now is showing you guys with my phone what it looks like with this lens, and I'm also trying to focus it with my phone, because I wish we really had our sunglasses, but we don't, which really sucks. I tried looking at it in the...
Oh, look at your face. Move away, move far away, and then move closer, slowly. There's the moon shine on his face. That's how bright it is.
I looked in it for like 2 seconds, and when I closed my eyes I could still see the moon. So it's really scary. Of course it's not the sun, so it's fine, but don't look at the moon.
Yeah, we'd recommend do not do that.
Alright, so now this is a 5mm eyepiece, which is for planets. As you can see on my camera here, it's extremely zoomed in. You can see the craters really good. It's kind of hard to focus because we don't have our eyes. I'm moving the telescope with my controller right here. And I saw the barlow, which is the third piece that we have. The barlow is going to be for the camera itself, for this camera.
So far there have been 6 landings on the moon from the US. The first one happened in 1969 and then the latest one happened in 1972. And we're going to switch out the lenses to give you guys a live preview of some of the spots where they landed and left some memorable little facts. So attached to our telescope here in this eyepiece is going to be the adapter, which is holding the barlow, and this lens is magnified 2 times, and then attached to that is our camera.
Okay, so the first Apollo mission to land on the moon was Apollo 11, the most famous one, with Neil Armstrong. It was on July 20, 1969, and it landed on the Sea of Tranquility, which is going to be right here. You see those 2 big craters? It's about right here. It landed on the bottom of the second one. So we'll show you a better picture, of course, but this is the area where it landed the very first time, which we can see right now in live view. November 14, the same year, 1969, only 4 months after the first one, Apollo 12 launches and lands on the moon again. And this time it's going to be right here. You see this big crater, which is pretty famous. Now they land on a place called Mare Cognitum, which is Latin, I believe. And before that, 2 years before that, the rover Surveyor 3 landed at the same spot and made sure everything was safe for them to land on. And so you can see it's right here. The landing site itself is named Oceanus Procellarum, it's hard to say, but it's right here under this crater.
In 1971, when the Apollo mission 13 failed to land on the moon and had to swing back around to the Earth because of technical problems, they sent Apollo 14. And that site, they landed on a big rock, which happened to be somewhere right about here. And they named their landing site Fra Mauro Base. And it was the original landing spot that Apollo 13 would have landed on. The same year, Apollo 15 was launched, and it took a longer turn around to the moon, and it landed right about here in Palus Pretendinus, meaning Marsh of Decay.
Less than 1 year later, 1972, another crew goes to the moon again for Apollo 16, and now they land on Descartes Islands, which is going to be over here in the corner on the bottom. And this is where Apollo 16 was.
Apollo 17 was the last mission that they sent in the Apollo program and the last time humans set foot on the moon. And they landed in a different area this time, right about here. And they call it the Taurus Littrow Valley on the eastern rim serenity.
Some Latin stuff.
A Latin word. Their objective was to gather samples on the Highland material that was older than the previous missions.
Alright, so we don't want to spend too long here on the moon, so we'll just take a few pictures with the camera and play with different settings, and we'll show you guys what it looks like afterwards.
And then, like we said earlier, we're going to show you what we happened to do on the day of the eclipse. Was it exciting? Was it intense? You check it out. Okay, the solar eclipse is next week, and so far the weather has been very, very good, so we hope that next week it'll be in good standing and we can get a very, very good shot of the eclipse. Wow. Wow, that was the best eclipse ever. Fortunately, this bipolar weather has totally changed its minds. We woke up to thunderstorms or thunderclaps this morning, so as you can see behind us, it is very, very cloudy. However, behind the camera, people who are lucky enough to be on the southwest part of Las Vegas are able to see the sun, and they may be able to see the eclipse. I'm not sure. We would have gone that way had we known that it would have been more clear, but you know, here we are with our eclipse sunglasses.
And it's raining on me. Okay. Maybe in 10 years.
Great American solar eclipse!
Being unable to see the eclipse was heartbreaking, and we tried to keep our chins up during our ride home.
We actually almost threw out our eclipse sunglasses, but decided to keep them as souvenirs. Which was a great idea because on the way home, the clouds suddenly began to reveal the sun. We raced home and were able to catch the end of the eclipse right in our parking lot. We'll show a short video of that encounter. But first, here are some shots from our lucky friends that are members of the Las Vegas Astronomical Society and were able to travel to the path of totality.
Oh, yeah.
Too cool.
Well, after all, we have a sight on the eclipse, and it's really cool. We are back home, and it's time to see what we have in this little card.
This was our first shot, and it was taken with a shutter speed of 1/640. It's a little bright, so it might be unusable for us for this next part. And this is the second image we've taken. It is 1/1000 shutter speed. This one's a little bit better, it has more details, and it's less bright than the first one. And then the last one we took with a shutter speed of 1/3200. There's a lot more details on this one, but it is a lot darker, so it probably won't be used. So as you can see with all three of them side by side, the middle one looks the most promising, so that's the one that we're going to use for our editing.
Alright, time for the processing of the moon. So in Lightroom, first thing to do is to crop so we can center the moon. So up, it's all centered, perfect. Now, we're gonna play with the sliders. It's mostly, just playing with them and see what's best. I usually don't do those first ones at the beginning. And the clarity, See the comparison here between full clarity, it's really pretty, and when you go all the way down though, it's all ugly, like cartoonish. But if you go full clarity, you can see some dots in the back, and the moon doesn't look as real as it does in real life. So we'll just play with that later. So we're gonna go down and play with those more sliders. I like to play with the darks mostly because the craters pop out more by lowering the darks. And then the sharpening is very important as well. We're gonna do it a little bit, not too much, just to make the edges and those craters more visible and sharp and less blurry. And then dehaze, I like to add a bit more, so it adds some darks. I mean, it darkens the dark areas, which makes the craters, which are our main focus here, more visually pleasing. Then we go back to the top, and the main sliders, we're gonna play with them and just one by one see what's best. If we put all the vibrance and saturation up, you can see some colors in the moon. It looks very nice, but it's not real. So, I mean, it's real, but it's not like you see it in the sky. So we'll just leave them like that. Just a bit vibrance because it looks better, but that's it. Now, what I like to do at last is to, as you can see, some of the craters and impacts look a bit blurry because it's a single shot, it's not a video stacked together. So I like to just target those small areas so we can make them more sharp with the nose slider. And that's pretty much it. It takes a while. As you can see, there is a few small areas here and there around the moon. Once again, don't overdo it because you want to make sure it matches the surrounding areas. So once everything is good, we can just export the file. It looks really nice. M78 is the brightest diffuse reflection nebula in the sky, but that doesn't mean it's easy to capture. Photographing this messier object is a little bit of a challenge. Usually we spend 4 hours for all of our nebulae photos, but this time we would need about 6 hours to reveal the details within the dark lanes, as well as a more in-depth processing.
Barnard's Loop is a huge emission nebula, and photographing it means also capturing M42, M78, the Witch Head, and more. Just like Rho Fucci, we cannot use our telescope for this, so we will have to set up our DSLR camera on top of our motorized mount. Here is our version of Barnard's Loop from a couple of years ago, with our old T3i camera. We now use a Canon 7D Mark II. It is still unmodified and we have no filter, but it would be interesting to see if there would be any difference compared to the T3i. Like the Earth, the planets in our solar system are constantly orbiting our sun. You've probably already seen several of them when looking up at the night sky, but do not realize what they actually are. By getting closer to one of these bright stars, we may discover that it is actually a planet. Alright, well that's it for episode 7 of Galactic Hunter. We're so glad to have gone over the moon, and we're still a little upset that we didn't get to capture Rho Fucci since we missed it this time around. However, next year we're planning to go to a Board 1 zone so that we can capture this deep space image with the darkest skies possible.
And as always, check out our website, galactic-hunter.com. We have a good blog post about the moon, showing you ways to be creative with it in photographs, so check it out. And yeah, cannot wait to do some more deep sky imaging in episode 8, so we'll see what you choose. Alright, cheers guys.
Because we're astrophotographers, the moon is one of our worst enemies. When it shows up, it stops us from capturing deep sky objects, which is difficult because this bright floating rock is up for a total of 6 months out of 12.
But in any case, we must admit that it is always impressive, and the easiest target to capture in the sky. It can also be photographed during the day.
If the moon ever hinders you like it does with us, try to get the best out of it by finding ways to be creative with it. The next time you look at the moon, whether it is with your naked eye or an instrument, remember that it is the only other place where humans have a history.
Oh, it's beautiful, Mike. It really is.